And then for imbalances, Chris had 2 imbalances 2 years ago, and we've actually improved as a team to no imbalances. So they're taking a lot better care of their bodies, making sure they're strengthening a lot and getting better overall. And that takes us to the last page of the booklet that you have. This is a breakdown of the functional movement screen. So these are the tests that are given. You'll see that there's actually the active impingement, extension, and flexion that have zeros. These are actually tests that are only looking for pain. So the active impingement is they just put their hand on their shoulder and lift up. It's looking for pain in the shoulder. The extension and the flexion are looking for pain in the low back. And so if there's no pain, then there's going to be a 0 on that. All the rest of them, it will give them their score. If they score a 3, they really don't have an area to improve on. If they score a 2, it gives exercises or areas that they need to work on. And if there was a 1 or a 0, it would have additional information there.
Okay, questions? Now, before I entertain, I'll come right to you. I want to stress, we're developing this, we're giving it to you. Don't go back and say, well, I don't have those tools, so I can't do it. Implement something. Just something. Start tracking with your players and they have a goal where they want to go. Just start really basic and then build up for it. I mean, the functional movement screen can be available on the internet. You can do that. You can do the research on that. You start looking into the athlete development by the Canadian Sports Institute. Just help your players get better. Just not throwing strike after strike. And evaluate what they're doing on the score. Okay.
I'm just curious, how often does Team USA have to report to come up with a 1-year report?
Okay, what we do, I don't think we can get them to do it more than once a year, but look upon it like a physical. You're going and getting your yearly checkup is what we're doing with it. Now, we have a lot of data. We just gave you the Team USA because we're comparing this to Team USA, but we have international teams that come in, they go through this program. Team Sweden just came through this. We compared them, we got all their data, we've had the flags out there, I guess will give you an indication of the countries that have been here and gone through the program. We've had some returning countries come back, and it's great because now they can start looking at how were they a year ago to now or 2 years ago. Really once a year is probably enough. I don't know if we really need to do it a little bit more than that. We might do some of the individual tests, not to do the whole about the elite training assessment, the whole thing. Yes.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. As I look at your
It's
intro,
my staff, it's a team effort.
as I look at the intro, comments I had yesterday about the juniors, it is a skeleton of what we could do introduce into our junior program, especially when we're talking about the windows and ages, boys
Right.
and girls. Be able to build from that, recreate what we do to the point so that we send out a real pack of started from the junior program to take it right through to the.
Yeah, I think that we're not getting the information out well enough too, because there's a lot of youth incentives coming out of this building now. The whole youth program's been rebuilt the last year. And there's some really good programs that are coming out that are reevaluating how we're doing the youth. And they're getting started now. Are all of them going to work? No. Hopefully some of it's going to be, but yeah, it's not status quo the way we've done it in the past. I mean, the whole youth department has completely been rebuilt in the last year. And what their priorities definitely could change. So, yes.
Given the training windows, do you advise training, like say you got a high school boys team, training freshmen and sophomores completely differently than juniors and seniors based on those windows?
I would definitely look into it and look at their skill level. Now, if you read through the study too, it has a lot when they're going through puberty about where the different ones are. So that's why there's a 2-year window for a lot of them. Some boys it might be at the younger age, some boys it might be on a higher age. But I think as any coach that's developing a program should be aware of those windows because you're doing the player a disservice if they miss that window. Science is showing you miss that window, you don't get it back. And it doesn't have to be just bowling. It could be any rotational sport that they can go out, they can play. We would recommend that they play 2 or 3 sports. It's going to help them in the long term for all the sports. Yes, and I'll come over.
I don't work with I work with a few juniors, but I don't work with a lot of juniors. So when I get a 30-year-old or a 45-year-old and I know we've missed the window and they want a little more power in their game, am I beating my head against the wall? Or, I mean,
You can make them more efficient. You can teach skills to make them more efficient. But to sit there and think that you're going to get more ball speed or substantially more RPMs is not going to be realistic. But you can make them more consistent and give them the knowledge of what they have to be able to use it on the lanes. But if they're, like if they have, like right there, a release ratio of 4-to-1, and they're throwing the ball speed at 21 miles an hour, that's not a very good matchup. We got to get a little bit of hand and figure out how they can get the ball and throw it a little bit slower to be able to work with it. Yeah, you're not going to get, you know, once those power windows are missed, I mean, you are what you are. It's just like height. I mean, you have a growth spurt and you establish your height. I can't get any taller, as much as I would like to. I can't get any taller, so what happens.
so, you know, really, you know, we shouldn't be trying to work with our older, more mature players. We shouldn't be trying to work on, you know, rev rates. It's more about consistencies.
And clean up the releases and stuff to make them more consistent.
Okay.
I think that where we see a lot of them is they're trying to, the old term lift, they're trying to get as much as they can, and there's too much variation from shot to shot. They're not coming out of the ball the same, so they're seeing different reactions because they're trying to get more. I think we want to clean it up more and make it more consistent.
Okay, very good.
What's the approximate time frame to complete this assessment as you do it here?
It takes a full day, a long full day, and then all the data, and then we try to generate it, and it usually takes about 4 to 6 hours to generate all the data and actually input it in. And that's for a team of maybe 10 to 12.
Yeah.
After that, it starts pushing it a little bit. A lot of times when we have bigger teams or they're traveling, we'll break it into 2 days and do the gym on the second day and the lanes one day, just so they have a little bit of rest. Because I don't want them after they've done the gym. I don't want them after they've done the gym coming out and trying to throw balls.
Rod, if you could just talk to him a little bit to go real back quick to the release stuff. Talk to him about what we've seen in terms of the going more and going left.
This is an interesting thing about talking about when we've had a lot of players coming through, and we talk about the senior ones. And some of the girls too, ladies and guys, when we tell them we want them to get more, they get less. Because they're thinking more and they're grabbing it and trying to put some stuff on it. And when we tell them, get less, I want you to just take your hand out of it, it goes up. Because they relax their hand more and they're rolling. And we've seen it's been quite often that it does happen. Especially the players with the wrist supports on. You know, it's just relaxed, all of a sudden their RPMs go up. They did a study with body types, with PGA players. How long ago was that?
That was in 2009.
2009. And they broke the players down into the old terms, because I hate these terms, but stroker, tweener, and cranker. Because, you know, you're putting someone in a box. But we're just based off rev rates, and now we're doing release ratios. But the strokers, the relationship between their wrists and their forearm, it definitely got better, and it was bigger than their non-bowling arm. Went up to the tweeners, it increased more. This forearm was much bigger than their non-bowling forearm, and between the wrist and the forearm. What was interesting when we got to the high rep players, these called crankers, both arms are very similar. It went down. Well, what's the difference? The strokers and the tweeners were doing this when they're releasing the ball. They're contracting. High rep players do this. They're opening up. They're using less muscle. So, I guess I can answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions. First one, have you guys considered perhaps changing the age windows for junior gold based on those studies? You know, you have everybody is U15 and the women and the men. If the women develop at a different rate or a different age group, you know, and you're...
They're still competing against the women, girls against girls, and guys against guys. A lot of those ages are established because of other sports,
Right.
and also because of international age limits. Because we have youth bowling and sub-youth bowling internationally,
Right.
and those are the age limits that they're based on.
Okay, and my other quick question, and probably loaded for you, but Digitrax, I know you developed it. You talk about how technology is changing and constantly. is that still, would you still consider that to be a great valuable tool? Are you doing anything to enhance that? Is there any of that changing or
That's a loaded
something
question.
beyond? Yeah, I know.
Some of this stuff did come from Digitrax, and Digitrax actually had ranges that you could do all these things and check the boxes on the side. Since I've been working for USBC, and I guess ITRC is what I work for, but since I've been in the building of USBC, haven't spent a lot of time on Digitrax. I mean, we've got a little things, some small cameras, but haven't put anything out recently. I mean, have a new job, so it's hard to say that there's going to be a lot of enhancements, because it definitely has to be on my spare time. Yeah, but it is a good tool. It still works if you can find the DV cameras. It's still the only thing in the world that actually can track ball motion with a camera, and you can set it up very quickly. So, does anyone use Digitrax in here? Okay, good. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Richard.
Well, one of the big things that I can see as a standout, with Chris particularly and Kelly, is their spare improvements. Do you have the ability out here to set up individual spares?
Yes, I guess that's a very good question. When we built this facility, we were able to specify what we wanted, and I wanted to be able to set any pin at any time. So these pin setters out here, we can put any spare combination at any time and leave it up there. So that's what the combine and these types do, that it just stays there. So yeah, we have that capability. Now, if you don't have that capability, you have to find a way to work around it. But there was a solution that Bob Ray had once, being on the A2s, that you had to put a rubber band or something like that on one of the arms, and you could actually get it to do that. And I'm sure Bob Ray would share that with you. He published it at one time, that you could able to do it on the A2s. I don't know how you can do it on the air machines, though. Okay. Yes?
Has there been any studies or publications of some of these developmental windows that the office here, or even the ITRC, has sent out? Because I like to think there's maybe some public relations opportunities for both the athletes and all the people that are training them, as well as the perception of our sport.
Well, the Canadian study is the one that we're basing everything on, and they had a lot of funding because of the Olympics putting them through there. The best study we've seen before that was Australia. Australia's study was probably about 3 or 4 years. Before that, it's interesting that when someone hosts the Olympics, they throw a lot of money into research and athlete development because they want to win the medals. I'm not sure. I should ask my Russian friend if we're going to see something from Russia, if they did anything up there of the study, if they publish it. That's where I would find it. I mean, it's independent studies out there. As far as ITRC putting something out, you've got it. I think that's what we're going to be doing, is what you have now. Karen, did you have a...
I was pointing out that Ron had a question.
Oh, pointing out the Ron had a question. You had it back here. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes. We'll get 2 more questions.
Why do we measure RPMs and speed in minutes and hours rather than feet per second and actual revs?
It goes back to, okay, actual revs. Revs, as you can see from tilt, really will cause an issue because one ball travels 26 inches of the ball, one ball actually 20 inches of the ball. RPM is the energy that's created, how fast it's spinning, okay? Independent of speed. It's a more accurate way to measure. Now you can do revs, and if you got our DVD series, you saw where we showed some pictures of above to show you how a ball slows down, how many actually revolutions it makes in the first 15 feet, for the next 15 feet, from 30 to 45 and on, how much it actually, you can actually see it accelerate. But to measure what the versatility of a player's hand, RPM is the most accurate way to be able to do it. Plus it's tied revolutions per minute. I mean, we're inches and everything. We could have done it metric, but we didn't do it in 1995. But that's a great story here. Well, how can you call it RPMs? Because the ball's on there a minute, same thing miles per hour. It's not on there for an hour. You know, it's just a measurement of speed that we can actually measure very accurately.
But as far as speed variance, wouldn't you see bigger ranges or more accurate ranges in feet per second than miles per hour?
Probably feet per second would be a little bit more accurate, but at the level that we're dealing with the bowling balls, I think it's going to muddy the waters a little bit. You know, I mean, bowlers right now at the elite level, we want you to be within 1/10 of a mile an hour at the highest level. You know, it's hard to have equipment that actually can measure that accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at cats, when it's measuring ball position, it's like a sonar. It's like your autofocus going out of your camera and coming back. And for the speed, it's actually a pulse going out there, a beam. And it, you know, there could be a little, could be 60 hertz. There's going to be a small little variation there. So even the equipment that we're using to track it is not 1,000% accurate. It's going to be out there because it's part of it. So there's going to be a little variation there. Especially, we're looking linear across the lane, then on your launch angle, it's going to be a little different as well. Ball speeds will go up, straighter you're going through the front part of the lane, more angle through the front, it will look like you're going a little bit slower, but you're throwing the same speed. Okay? Anyone else? Great, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you coming out. You have 20 minutes. I've been over my time. I apologize. We will do the presentation. We'll start at 10:30.